What were your perceptions of Penn State when you transferred in?
Well, when I first transferred, before I started taking any classes, the only things I'd heard about Penn State were that it's such a huge school and it can be really intimidating. It's really hard to get around and it's hard to make a name for yourself in a class because the class sizes are so big. That's the perception that I had to go on before I really started here.
What about academically?
Academically, I had the perception that Penn State as a public school wasn't as prestigious as most private schools, but I knew that as far as state schools went, that it was pretty well renowned.
Okay, and how about socially?
Socially, that's probably the reason. That's what appealed to me the most about Penn State is that I knew it had such a well developed, I don't know, ways for kids to interact and there was such a just a bigger social scene and ways to get involved compared to smaller private schools.
So were you worried about fitting in, and how, if so, why?
I wasn't because I went to a smaller school for one semester, American University in D.C., and I didn't really fit in there. And I felt that if I came to a bigger school, there would just be more niches for me to potentially fall into.
How about sizing up academically? Were you worried about the rigor of the classes or anything?
I wasn't because at the time, I know that's erroneous now, but at the time, I viewed it sort of as like an academic downgrade for me, so I figured it would be a little bit easier.
Okay. Were you worried about leaving home at all?
No, I wasn't. It was never something that bothered me.
Okay. How did you deal with any concerns that you had in terms of even later on, once you were a sophomore, junior, senior? Did you avoid going to classes? Did you reach out for academic support? Did you join clubs? What sort of activities or inactivities did you do?
So that's something that I always regretted from my first attempt at being an undergrad at Penn State, is that not so much that Penn State itself was intimidating, but when I needed help, that is when I kind of lost focus and didn't know what my major was going to be or didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It was hard for me to find an advisor to help with that just because they can be a little impersonal. They have so many students to deal with. It can be hard. As surprising as this sounds, with so many things to get involved in, it can be hard to find your niche sometimes unless you really put yourself out there at a big school like this. And that's something I never did.
Interesting. You were close to finishing, but you didn't. What made you choose to stop?
What made me choose to stop? Well, I thought I knew what I wanted to do, which was going to be Air Force ROTC. That didn't work out for medical reasons, and my ship pretty much sunk when I found that out. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and my grades suffered because I really lost focus. And like I said, I just didn't know what to do with that. The big school aspect kind of didn't help in that regard. And so I decided to stop just to stop the downslide of me being totally unfocused here.
How long were you thinking of stopping before you actually did?
I wasn't actually. Stopping was never really. It was something I wanted to. It was something I never thought about because it was a horrible thing in my mind, stopping school.
Okay. Do you blame yourself for stopping out, or the university, or where do you place the blame?
Definitely myself. It was all my fault. There's nobody else is responsible for that but me. There were certainly avenues I could have taken to get help. I just didn't.
How would you grade your success then overall, both socially and academically?
When I was first here, socially, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 3 or a 4, there are certain things I got involved in that I'm really proud of, and I made some of the best friends of my life here, but given all that Penn State has to offer, I think I could have done a lot more. Academically, I was very successful at first, but that really trailed off when I lost focus and didn't know what I was doing major-wise or career-wise.
Okay, so now you left school, took a couple years off, were working for a while, and you decided to come back to college in general. So let's start there. What made you come back to the idea of college?
Um, First of all, because I realized that career options are definitely out there for people without college degrees, but they're very limited, or at least the span that you can advance without a college degree is very limited. and I knew that I wanted to give myself that opportunity, and also I just wanted to educate myself, especially now that I found a field that I wanted to work in after working in the real world after stopping college. I found a field I wanted to work in, and I wanted to get legitimately educated in that field.
Okay, so what made you choose Penn State and specifically University Park?
Penn State University Park. I came back here because number one, it's very cathartic for me to finish here because I definitely stopping my undergrad progress at Penn State was it wasn't something that I regret because it's something I had to do to stop the downward trend that I was on, but it's definitely one of the big failings that I have done in my life, I think. So coming back here and overturning that and finishing it is important to me personally. And also, I do really believe, I mean, as much as I didn't get that much accomplished my first time around at Penn State, University Park, we do have some of the best academic programs in the nation. We have the best student body in the nation. It's an amazing place. I love it up here. I bleed blue and white. I have nothing bad to say about Penn State, and coming back here was important to me personally for a whole slew of reasons.
And so you mentioned this a little bit, but how have your perceptions of yourself changed?
My perceptions of myself, well, before, clearly I didn't know what I was doing, so I was more worried about performing socially and just kind of finding myself while I was here, which I think made it harder to do that actually. Whereas now I'm very focused. I know exactly what I want to do. I see myself more as a professional student rather than just like, oh, this is the student phase of your life you go through. I have actual goals day to day that I want to accomplish in all my classes. It takes a lot of the pressure off of being a student, I think.
And what actions are you taking now that you weren't previously?
Being more studious. I haven't missed a class yet. I'm definitely structuring my time a lot better now. I'm making sure that I get all my studying done. I'm trying to balance free time and work time more so than I was in the past, where, in the past, I just wanted to get the minimum amount of work done so that I could have the maximum social and free time. Now I realize that there's a balance to be struck between those two.
All right, thanks so much, Andrew.